Chosen one, listen closely, because what you are reading right now is not an accident, not a coincidence, not a random digital encounter drifting through your day. There is a prophetic reason you were led here, a divine thread woven by the hands of God Himself, pulling you into this very moment with deliberate heavenly intention. You didn't stumble across this message, and you weren't scrolling aimlessly. Heaven ordered your steps. God, who has been watching you with a quiet and tender intensity, positioned you precisely here because today carries weight. Today carries purpose. Today carries a message meant for your spirit in a way you have not heard for a long time. This moment was requested by God, not to warn you, not to correct you, not to point out your flaws or failures, but to tell you something your heart has secretly needed and your spirit has quietly longed for. God is happy with you today. Yes, heaven is genuinely pleased with you, deeply moved by you, profoundly proud of you, and even if you do not feel worthy of it, even if you believe you didn't do anything extraordinary, even if you think you barely made it through the day, heaven saw what others overlook. God saw the small decisions you made when nobody was watching, the restraint you exercised in moments where anger could have erupted, the patience you held on to when frustration tried to pull you into darkness, the kindness you showed even though you felt drained, and the obedience you walked in even when it stretched you emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. While you assumed the day was ordinary, heaven recorded it as faithfulness, sacrifice, consistency, and purity of heart. God smiled at you today, not because you were flawless, not because everything went perfectly, not because you felt holy every second, but because you were faithful in ways you didn't even recognize. Something about the way you moved today touched the heart of God. It wasn't loud, dramatic, or public. It was quiet. It was sincere. It was authentic. And sincerity is the currency heaven responds to. You made a choice, humble, private, righteous, and it shifted something in the spirit realm. Angels took notice. The atmosphere responded. Heaven leaned in. God looked at you and said, "That one belongs to me." Look at their heart. Look at their intention. Look at their perseverance. Today, without realizing it, you please the Father more than you know. Before we go deeper, if your spirit feels the truth of this, align with it. Agree with heaven. Stay connected so you don't miss what God releases next. And for every person who supports this ministry, every giver, every partner, every intercessor, you are not merely offering something. You are participating in a divine assignment. Your giving is not random. It is your prophetic yes. Your seed is not an act of loss. It is an act of alignment, a way of placing your life beneath the pleasure of heaven. May what you release become incense before God, louder than your fears, breaking open doors you forgot you prayed for. Do not move. Do not scroll. Stay right here. Because what comes next is deeper than you expect. Your spirit needs the next part of this revelation. Chosen one, do you understand something that your mind hasn't caught up with yet? You have been pleasing God in ways you did not even realize. You often assume God is watching to judge you, to correct you, or to highlight your mistakes. But Scripture tells us something entirely different. Psalm 34:15 says, "The eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous, and His ears are open to their cry." This means God is not only watching you, He is watching over you, like a loving father bending down to observe the trembling steps of a child learning to walk, like a devoted shepherd who refuses to look away from his sheep for even a moment, like a protective king keeping his eyes fixed on the warrior he has chosen. You have never been out of His sight, not even for a second. God has seen the efforts you dismissed, the tears you hid, the battles you fought silently, the strength you tried to muster when exhaustion weighed heavily on your spirit. While you felt unseen by the world, heaven whispered, "That's my child. Look at their effort. Look at their endurance. Look at their growth." Heaven celebrates things you overlook in yourself. The whispered midnight prayers, the temptations you resisted silently, the moments you chose kindness when anger felt easier. Heaven saw it all. You think your obedience was small, but heaven counted it as greatness. You think your battle was weak, but heaven saw courage. You think you barely held on, but heaven saw unwavering endurance. God is happy with you not because of outward perfection, but because of inward intention. He sees your heart. He sees your direction. He sees your desire to grow. You compare yourself to where you want to be, but God remembers where you started and celebrates how far you've come. You have survived storms that would have broken another person. You have overcome thoughts, fears, and spiritual warfare that you never spoke about. You have carried burdens silently, yet continued to walk forward. And God says, I am pleased with your strength, even when you think you have none. You feel weak because you are tired, but heaven says you are strong because you refuse to quit. You think you're failing because the fruit hasn't appeared yet, but heaven says you're winning because you stayed in the fight. God saw every battle that tried to break you, and his heart burns with pride over you. Every voice that told you you weren't enough was wrong. Every accusation whispered by the enemy is silenced today. Every lie that tried to convince you that God was disappointed in you is shattered. Here is the truth you must carry. God's joy over you is real, deep, and unshakable. You make heaven smile even on days you doubt yourself. And here's something that will shift your entire mindset. Heaven celebrates victories that no one else sees. The day you forgave someone with a hurting heart, heaven stood to its feet. The day you resisted a temptation that used to destroy you, angels rejoiced. The day you kept going, even though you felt numb, God recorded it. The day you prayed instead of giving up, heaven moved closer. Your private obedience is the loudest worship heaven receives. Galatians 6:9 tells us to not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. And you, chosen one, you did not give up. You did not faint. You did not abandon your calling. You did not let pain corrupt your character. You pushed through emotional storms, spiritual battles, financial pressure, loneliness, heartbreak, and internal warfare. You kept believing. You kept hoping. You kept pressing. You kept choosing God even when you felt empty. What you considered barely surviving, heaven called victorious endurance. And here is the revelation. God's happiness over you today is the result of battles you thought you lost, but heaven counted as triumph. You thought you stumbled, but heaven said you grew stronger. You thought you failed, but heaven said you matured. You thought you were breaking, but heaven said you were being rebuilt. Heaven measures differently. Heaven values differently. Heaven celebrates differently. You saw weakness, God saw growth. You saw tears, God saw transformation. You saw struggle, God saw spiritual muscles forming. Growth rarely feels like growth. Sometimes it feels like barely holding on. Sometimes it feels like walking through fire in silence. Sometimes it feels like showing up with trembling hands. But heaven is proud of your survival, your endurance, your resilience, and your faith. Every hidden yes to God, every silent victory, every private battle, heaven has honored it all. You are doing far better than you think. God is not merely pleased with who you are right now. He is pleased with who you are becoming. The world sees your flaws, but God sees your formation. You see your limits, but God sees your destiny unfolding. Heaven celebrates the warrior you are silently becoming. And here's something deeper. Most of your frustration did not come from what people did to you, but from what you believed about yourself afterward. You replayed mistakes. You carried guilt. You judged yourself too harshly. You feared disappointing God. But Psalm 103:13-14 tells us God has compassion on you because He knows your frame. He knows your humanity. He knows your weaknesses and your limitations. Yet He loves you fiercely. God is not shocked by your struggles or disappointed in your process. His patience is a reflection of His love, not your failure. While you see brokenness, He sees the masterpiece forming. While you see chaos, He sees construction. While you see delay, He sees development. And God is deeply pleased with that more than you realize, because He is delighted not simply with your achievements, but with the direction of your heart, the quiet turnings, the sincere intentions, the fragile but courageous steps toward growth that you often overlook. He sees the attempts you never applaud, the effort you never celebrate, the resilience you shrug off as survival, and the desire to grow that you dismiss as not enough. Yet heaven views those very things as the signs of a maturing spirit. You don't give yourself enough credit for the battles you've already overcome, but heaven does. God does. And the transformation unfolding within you speaks louder in the spirit realm than any mistake trailing behind you. Hear this. God is not measuring you by the shadows of your past. He is measuring you by the brilliance of your potential. He is shaping you according to destiny, not judging you by history, because He sees the greatness He placed within you long before you saw any glimpse of it yourself. His joy over you is steady, unshakable, and rooted in purpose. Your story is not defined by where you have been, but by where God is leading you. Your future is not trapped in your failures because it is wrapped entirely in God's faithfulness. Your past is not your identity because your destiny speaks louder than every stumble. And right here in this holy moment, hope pours into your spirit like living fire. Because God is happy with you today, heaven has smiled on your effort, and the Father is delighted by what He sees in your heart, even the parts you think are too small to matter. That means something in your life is about to shift. Hebrews 6:10 declares that God is not unjust to forget your work and labor of love. Every seed you sowed, every prayer you whispered when you were weary, every sacrifice you made without applause, every act of obedience no one knew about, every private yes you gave God, He remembered it, recorded it, and honored it. Heaven has a long memory, and nothing you've done in sincerity has ever been ignored. That is why you are entering a season of divine return, a season where doors open more easily, resources flow more naturally, resistance weakens, strength multiplies, peace settles, clarity arrives, destiny aligns, purpose awakens, and favor begins to chase you down. This is not imagination. This is spiritual principle. When heaven approves, earth must adjust. When God says it is your time, no force can delay you. When God releases a season, every part of your life begins shifting into alignment with His whisper. When God is pleased with someone, He becomes their defender, their provider, their shield, their promoter, their open door. The one who goes ahead to straighten crooked paths and stands behind to cover what you cannot see, surrounding you so no weapon prospers. That is why you are on the edge of sudden breakthroughs, unexpected miracles, unusual favor, surprising opportunities, and long-awaited answers, not because of luck, coincidence, or chance, but because God Himself is involved. Because heaven has stamped approval upon your journey, because God has validated you, because heaven has smiled on your perseverance. And when heaven is pleased, earth must respond. Delays break, barriers fall, timelines accelerate. And what once resisted you begins to yield effortlessly. The pleasure of God becomes the wind at your back, the fire in your spirit, and the momentum pushing your life into the divine acceleration you were always meant for. Chosen one, let this truth settle deep into your spirit. You are more loved than you realize, more celebrated than you know, and more seen by God than your mind can even begin to grasp. Jeremiah 31 verse 3 declares, I have loved you with an everlasting love, a love that is eternal, unending, unbreakable, unshakable, untouched by your mistakes, unmoved by your imperfections, unweakened by your struggles. God's happiness over you is rooted not in your perfection but in His nature. It flows not from your flawless moments, but from his unchanging heart. So today, heaven declares over your life, you are doing better than you think. You are becoming who I designed you to be. You are rising in strength. You are walking into destiny. And I, your God, am pleased with you. This is not emotional comfort. It is eternal truth. Heaven has watched you grow, endure, adapt, mature, fight unseen battles, rise from disappointments, and choose faith in moments where fear tried to suffocate you. And God Himself delights in the direction of your heart. So walk boldly now. Walk confidently. Lift your head because you are deeply loved, intentionally chosen, fully seen, constantly growing, and becoming more of who God created you to be. Let this truth settle in your bones. Shift the atmosphere of your thoughts, silence every voice of doubt, and override every lie spoken over your life. God's love for you is not fragile. It is fierce. His celebration of you is not small. It is supernatural. His eyes are on you. His hand is over you. His joy is toward you. And His approval rests over your life like a mantle that cannot be removed. And nothing on earth or in the realm of darkness can change what God has declared over you. And because nothing in heaven can be revoked by the shadows on earth, the declaration spoken over you stands unchallenged in eternity. But hear this, chosen one. What God has declared over you is now beginning to manifest through you. The same God who whispered identity into your spirit before you were formed in the womb is now stirring the waters around your life, causing old cycles to break, new paths to open, and dormant gifts to awaken. This is why you've been feeling the inner shifting, the quiet stirring, the subtle vibration in your spirit that you couldn't explain. It wasn't anxiety, it wasn't pressure, it wasn't confusion. It was spiritual pregnancy. Your spirit has been carrying the weight of a new season long before your mind found language for it. And now heaven is announcing what your spirit has already sensed. You are stepping into fulfillment. What once felt delayed is aligning. What once felt denied is turning. What once felt distant is approaching. You are standing at the threshold of manifestation. And heaven is opening the doors you prayed for, cried for, fasted for, and waited for. This is the season God begins to reveal why certain people were removed, why certain doors remained shut, why certain opportunities slipped away, why certain battles lasted longer than you wished. Because everything that seemed like loss was actually divine protection, divine redirection, divine preparation. Nothing was wasted. Not one tear, not one disappointment, not one closed door, not one lonely night. Your pain was prophetic, your waiting was warfare, and your endurance was an offering. And now the same God who watched you sow in tears is preparing to let you reap in joy. The same God who collected every tear in His bottle is now releasing answers stored from seasons past. The same God who carried you when you could barely lift your head is now elevating you to places that require the strength He built inside you during those hidden years. You were not buried. You were planted. You were not forgotten. You were preserved. You were not overlooked. You were hidden for an appointed time. And beloved, that appointed time is unfolding right now. Heaven is beginning to orchestrate divine connections, God-ordained opportunities, kingdom alignments, and unexpected breakthroughs that were written in your destiny long before you battled through the storms that tried to take you out. Every delay was strategic. Every setback was preparation. Every detour was direction. And every moment you thought God was silent, He was actually positioning the next chapter of your life. Feel this deep in your spirit, because this truth will lift you into a higher realm of faith. God is not only pleased with you, He is about to reveal why the battle against you was so intense. The enemy never fights what isn't a threat. The enemy never targets what has no potential. The enemy never exhausts energy on someone who carries nothing. The magnitude of your warfare was the confirmation of the magnitude of your calling. Hell has always known something about you that you are only just beginning to discover, that you are marked, chosen, appointed, anointed, and divinely set apart for a purpose that terrifies darkness. That is why the enemy tried to break you early. That is why he attacked you emotionally, mentally, relationally, and spiritually. That is why he sent betrayal, heartbreak, confusion, and weariness. But he failed. You are still here. You are still standing. You are still believing. You are still reaching for God. Even when you feel empty, and that alone is proof that your destiny is stronger than every weapon formed against you. You survived what was meant to destroy you, and now you will walk into what was meant to elevate you. So lift your head, chosen one, straighten your spine, let your spirit rise. Because the pleasure of God is not hovering over your life in silence. It is moving, shaking, shifting, and breaking open atmospheres around you. Now, time to pray. Father, in this sacred moment, I open my heart to you and thank you for seeing me, loving me, and being pleased with me, even when I struggle to see my own worth. Lord, I surrender every burden, fear, and worry I've been carrying, and I place them fully in your hands. Strengthen me where I feel weak, lift me where I feel heavy, and speak truth into every place where doubt once lived. Align my steps with your will, surround me with your protection, and guide me into the season you have prepared. Let your peace settle over me. Let your favor go before me, and let your presence remain with me always. In Jesus' name, amen. Chosen one, this was no accident. You were led here for a reason, and now heaven is watching to see what you'll do with what you've just heard. If this message ignited something in your spirit, if you felt God speaking directly to you, then don't let it end here. This is your moment to align with what heaven is releasing. Like this message as a declaration, God, I receive your word, and I come into agreement with your truth over my life. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded that they are seen, chosen, and divinely approved. You may be the very vessel heaven uses to guide them toward their destiny. Subscribe to stay connected to this prophetic flow. The next word may be the key to your breakthrough, and if this ministry has touched your life, consider giving. Your seed is more than support. It is a prophetic yes to God's work. It is an offering that opens doors, shifts atmospheres, and welcomes heaven's favor into your life. Don't just listen. Act, like, share, subscribe, and watch how God moves through your obedience. This is your divine assignment. Will you answer the call?